Hey, friends, we are fearless. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Frances Young, and today I am reconnecting with Cole, and I have to clear my throat. Sorry, everybody. We still just have there. Oh my God, that's so much better. Mars has just moved out of Cancer in my first house, so we're still getting rid of
Mm.
like phlegm and stuff in my chest. Cole is here, and I am so excited to connect with you today. We are Instagram besties, and of just how I found you up moment. It was probably a reel that I thought was super fucking funny, and just being like, hey, I need to know who this person is. Let's get connected. So, Cole, welcome. And I would love for you to say who you are, what you do, and what is alive for you in this moment.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Francis. Excited to be here, excited to keep connecting. My name is Cole. You may know me on the internet as JK It's Cole. You've possibly seen one of my many videos roasting and ranking the zodiac signs on arbitrary little things. It's just my way of synthesizing astrology in a fun, accessible way that doesn't feel too heady or too just overwhelming, because as much as I love astrology also can be a headache sometimes just because there's so much going on. So I like to, as much as I can, bring the asinine to the esoteric every once in a while. I'm a little astrologer during the day. By night, I put on some makeup, some lashes, and a wig. I dance around New York City as a drag artist. I don't know what other things about me. I live in New York. I have a cat. I have a dog. I have a lovely partner. Cat and dog always come first, though, the kids. That's just a little bit about me. Excited to be here.
I love it. We're going to talk astrology. We're going to talk human design, as this is, yes, a human design podcast to help people just, again, just like astrology, this massive thing that we look at it. And to say something about New York, we look at the Empire State Building and like, holy shit, that's whoa.
Mm.
How do I tackle this thing? How do I interact with this thing? And we break it down. I'm pretty sure one of the first videos I ever saw on the internet that you created was when you put those funny like eyes and lips on a planet, and I was like,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
this guy's got a good break the mold on that. We can make some fun at this, to have some fun at this as well at the same time.
Yeah, no, and I love everyone's always like, when is the moon coming back? When are you gonna? And there are days where I'm like, should I bring it back? Should I do more of it? I don't know. I think we'll get into it, but like the evolution of coal has definitely shifted over the past like year and a half, and there's still some ideas and some thoughts of bringing back the planets with the face on it, but we'll see. We'll get into it on the pod.
Then I guess it kind of like goes right into one of the questions that I was like, cool, let's talk about this, because I we haven't connected in a while, and I want to see where this is at for you with literally also the current just climate of the world, the current climate of online social media promotion as a content creator that is seen in your field, that is easy to find in your field of astrology as well as drag. I think it's interesting that you haven't had those particular ways in which you've been putting yourself up and creating content for your followers to find you and doing more of your. I do love how you're like, what was one of the last ones you posted? Who is most likely to like, oh, start a cult? Which zodiac?
Yeah.
So, what are you working on right now, specifically in your astrology practice, as to maybe one, something that you're creating behind the scenes for your clients, for your followers to eventually use? I know last time you were like creating this cool calendar for them that was linked with their Google.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. And I was like, yo, something you're working on behind the scenes right now, and just like how what your creative content is feeling like this is where I'm going, as opposed to listening to everybody else say, bring back the moon.
Yeah, so I'm working on a lot of things. I think really over the past year and a half, I would say almost 2 years, because when I started working as an astrologer and started working on content, I told myself like, hey, go for it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. This is something that you've always loved. And if you can make a business out of it, then why not? I think for a long time, I was really focused more so on the content creation side of the business, whereas now over the past year and a half, 2 years has been a lot of me doing a lot of introspection and a lot of deep diving into what do I want a more professional, sort of standard traditional business of my practice to look like. So a lot of the behind the scenes stuff has been looking a little bit like some rebranding, some adjustments of the branding. I'm working on, I'm almost I think I'm like allowed to say this now. I'm working on a book. My first book, it's going to be released at the end of 2025, beginning of 2026. It's a very true to form of what you know and love JK It's Cold to be, like ranking the zodiac signs, roasting the zodiac signs. And I think like through that process, I've really, not to say put like a little cherry on top of that sort of side of the content that I created, but putting almost a year of writing this kind of content, it made me think, okay, what is the next phase, kind of like the next evolution, the next chapter? I think now I look at astrology in such a different way. I look at it as a tool of reflection. I look at it as a tool of revolution. I look at it as a tool for people to be able to not just connect with themselves, but hold space and hold empathy for other people. And also just acknowledging, hey, listen, if shit's happening in the world, there's probably some sort of astrological reason as to why, right? And is it going to hit people, or affect people differently? Absolutely. But there's always, and what I love about astrology is like there is some sort of answer, right? And there's some sort of answer to that. So, what I've been working on a lot behind the scenes and what I'm excited to this summer really just like start to kick off summer of 2025 is looking at how do I give people more of that, teach a person how to fish astrology, right? Something where it is less of, not to say that I'll stop doing the silly little goofy videos because I need them as a reprieve and escape for myself as well, but offering different business endeavors, so to say, like a little course here and there, a little online community subscription here and there, to be able to teach and educate accessible astrology in a way that people can practically use. People like ways that they can just kind of sit with their chart on a daily basis and be like, okay, got it. Here's what I should prep for. Here's what the intention I should set. Because I was noticing a lot over the past year in particular, I would have a bad day or something would just like switch in my day. And I'd be like, okay, let me just go to my chart for a second. Did something like just immediately move? Did something just hit like an immediate aspect? And 9 times out of 10, it was the moon. The moon was doing some shit. The moon was like moving signs or moving houses or moving aspects, moving into void of course, all these things. So it got me thinking a lot about, as someone who knows astrology and who works with it almost every day of my life, because there are days where I'm like, just turn the brain off and don't deal with it, don't do it, step away, step away, step away. I think anyone and everyone should do that with their careers and their professions. But I really just got into this like mindset of, I love entertaining and I love being silly. I love educating astrology through a tongue-in-cheek way, but I also know that astrology is more than that. And I want to be able to create more of a brand image and a platform that people know, hey, when I need that daily, practical, everyday accessibility to understand why what's going on and know how to maybe adjust your actions to it. That's what I've been working a lot behind the scenes with my business and what I hope my content is going to be looking like. So it's been looking a lot more writing for a magazine, writing my own horoscopes and information on Substack, writing the book and writing courses and writing business plans. There's just been a lot of just sit and get the words down. I have that nice little Virgo rising plan, meticulous before I launch and execute.
I love that. That's amazing. To just say one note before my
Mm.
brain goes off on all the beautiful things you let us in on what you're creating. One of my girlfriends, she will literally text me, "What sign is the moon in right now?" We have a bit
Mm.
in that she'll say to me, because I'm her astrologer friend. I'm the esoteric person with human design and astrology. And she's just, we can always blame it on the moon, right? And I'm like, yeah, we actually
Yeah.
can. So the fact that you just said that, I was like, yes,
Yes. Well, especially because you're Cancer rising, right?
sure am. My chart ruler.
Yeah, Cancer rising.
Oh,
If you got like dominant moon placements in your like or like moon aspects in your chart, like you can blame it on the moon. The moon moves every signs every 2.5 days. So every 2.5 days, the kind of collective energy is shifting. Granted, we feel it every month in that certain shift. All the other planets move too. So yeah, if Mercury is not in the microwave, you can blame it on the moon.
always just blame it on Mercury in the microwave. I don't even know if I've heard you say that with regards to retrograde. That's awesome.
No, I haven't. I've been seeing people like because I think people stopped saying it for a while. People were like, "Oh my God, you can't say it's in the microwave." That's like, no. And I was like, oh. And then I saw people starting to say it again. I was like, okay, cool. Like we can poke fun at this. Like we can, it is silly.
I love it. One thing as also finding my own new groove with where I'm at with creating content, with literally just creating writing for me specifically about human design and how it relates to somebody's health, or even just my own daily musings for me about what's happening in my own life, as I'm definitely somebody that feels that how and what I attract for my own type of clientele really wants to, for some reason, hear about the inside of my own personal life, but I legitimately think it's due to also what is in my own personal astrology chart, is that it takes time. I'm somebody that I actually have to leave my house to feel more energized to go and write for like, then I can write for 3 hours as opposed to trying to do it on my couch. It takes one, a lot of time, two, a lot of tenacity.
Mm.
You writing a book, congratulations on the fact that it's going to get published end of this year into next year. And already my brain's like, oh my God, Jupiter will be in Cancer, which is your 11th house for the collective. So it's going to bless the collective. I love that.
Hmm.
Amazing. So we know what you do, we know what you're working on. Something that we're going to get into now with talking about your chart, maybe even reflecting my own chart, is just we know that shit has been hitting the fan for a little while, but it feels
Yeah.
like the end of 2024, the astrological new year of 2024, and 2025 as a whole, we know has been a dumpster fire, but it's like the dumpster fire then also has the fire around the fire.
Mm. Hmm.
Extra shit going on. One thing that you wrote to me that's something that you are practicing yourself deeply, just with where your own life is at, you're expect because you're about to, once Saturn moves into Aries, you are the one of the first true moments of Gen Z hitting their Saturn return, which is
Yep.
exciting. Having just passed it during COVID for me, because COVID was mine, I think it's exciting when I'm talking to Gen Zs that know their astrology and they're talking about Saturn moving into Aries. They're getting excited. You're working on self love, letting go, and these are the biggest themes that we also have collectively as well. So when that just like naturally prompted out of you, I was like, oh, okay, I can't wait to go down this moment for you. One of the first things for me that's interesting that we can vibe on our own charts is you are in your nodal opposition. So
Yeah.
at the south node, yeah, you're like, fuck.
Right.
South.
I hope that if anyone looks at my chart and what's going on in my chart or has been going on in my chart for the past months, if not 2.5 years, you'll be like, oh, okay, it makes sense.
The south node is currently in Virgo, and Cole's north node is in Virgo in your first house. And then
Hmm.
north node is in Pisces in your seventh house, where your south node is. My personal experience of the past 2 years and what we've just shifted out of is the Aries and Libra. Aries is my 10th house, moving me towards everything in my destiny and work. And I was like, oh, when, Aries, the North Node is in Aries, everything's going to take off in my business. It actually felt like it was still breaking everything down.
Mm.
That was
Hmm.
my experience. And I was like, what is happening? Now, for me, my with South Node in Virgo, it's actually going to be taking away a lot of the old ways that I communicate, the old ways that I operate. So I'm interested to hear how it feels having the South and North Node opposition for you in your first house of identity, how that's going to show up in your business. How do those prompts feel for you as to what's coming up for you to say?
Yeah, I think one of the reflections that I had, and it wasn't directly pertaining to, because I'm one of the astrologers, and this is where don't clock the tea too much, not too much. I don't love looking at my chart all the time because I know how my own implicit biases work. And I know that I'm going to look for potentially an excuse or a rationale for why I don't want to do something or a reason to push it off, like anything like that. It's very mutable sign energy. My Gemini, my Virgo placements, very perfectionist. Oh, it's not the perfect time, right? Or again, just looking for like, well, I got in a fight with this person, so like let me see what I can maneuver and manipulate in the chart and just see what's going on there to explain why. I do work with a mentor who does help me through a lot of just like that sort of, I wouldn't necessarily call it therapy, but they're very therapeutic sessions where we talk about my chart and what's going on in it. One of the things that we were talking about with first house, of course, being identity, South Node stripping away a lot of facets of who you are and how you present to the world. And one of the reflections, I was like through this like rebrand and changing up the kind of content I want to do, really deeply reflecting on what are the messages that I want to give. I did a little social audit and I felt as though I was looking at a caricature of myself. Not necessarily to say that like the content that I produce isn't true and authentic, because it is. There is that satirical jokester, like silly. I'm a dumb bitch at the end of the day. I love being stupid. I love telling jokes. I love making people laugh. But I really felt as though there was like a disconnect between the way in which I like sit and hold space for someone when I'm giving them a reading or when I'm talking about astrology, as opposed to what I was like showing on social media. And I think a lot of it comes down to one, my generation, the Gen Z generation, we are the social media generation. We were raised on it. I've been watching YouTube since Charlie bit my finger, right? You know, blew up the internet for the first time ever. I've been hooked since I was like a wee little lad. I think that does skew in some ways, like the perception of how we do share ourselves, especially like my generation. I do think it does skew the way in which we validate certain sort of narratives and validate certain sort of ways to communicate. I think the South Node really did, not like in a harsh kind of like, you dumb bitch, why have you been doing this? This isn't you. But in a sense of, you can't, like, this is true. Yes, this is a facet of your identity and a facet of your business and a facet of astrology, or but you're not allowing yourself the full breadth of experiences by not talking about the mundane astrology when you sit for hours looking at like the United States' birth chart and why everything's going on, you know, how it's going on here. You don't talk about how when you really sit with someone's chart and like, you know, as if it's like a conversation with them. When I write a horoscope, on the days where I remember that I have to write a horoscope and I'm not rushing to get it done, I spend like hours just like sitting with the chart, just talking to it, having a conversation with it. So these all things where I was like, this is part of your craft, this is part of your business, but you don't, you know, add that into the narrative. What would it look like if you were to do that? I still don't have the answer for it, truthfully. I'm still trying to figure out like a lot of the content that I've been exploring and scripting over the past like couple of weeks, because I really only just came into this revelation about a month and a half, maybe two months ago. It's been very fresh. Like it was a whole lot of Neptune opposite my Mars, opposite my North Node, like really getting Saturn's there too in Pisces, getting me to be like question marks. I don't know. What am I doing? I don't know. I don't know. I think like once that nodal shift happened in January, but got really close to that like true opposition point, was when I was like, I think like about 2 degrees now, or no, it's just about on, but like when it hit that kind of 1 degree, 2 degree separation point was really where I was like, you're just not allowing yourself to be the Gemini that has all of the facets and the faces. You're not allowing yourself to be the Virgo rising that is very meticulous and very detailed about their astrology. You're not allowing yourself to be the eighth house moon that is going to get straight to it. Like when I'm in the club and someone finds out that I have like a background in astrology, I'm like, all right, let's clock it. Let's get into it. Here's the hard hitting questions. I think for me, the reason why it's been so difficult to find this like middle ground is that I've been siloing the two sort of facets too much, right? Where I'm like, if it's going to be an educational, informative, heartfelt post, that's all it can be. If it's going to be something satirical or silly, that's all it can be. I've been like working just with some of my, because I do drag and I do stand up comedy as well. Some of these, like these characters, and like trying to find ways where it's, oh, okay, like for an example, like this whole series that I'm working on right now is like POV, you're in the club and I'm reading your birth chart. And it's just me like reading the chart, being very satirical, being very silly with it, retelling stories that I've had with friends, like when I first met them or when they ask me what's going on in my life. So it's been, the South Node in the first house has been really beautiful, because I think it's giving me a lot of permission to not hold myself to an image that I don't think that I am anymore, and allow myself to just acknowledge and accept that there are multitudes to who I am as a person. And my business is, I'm a 10th house Gemini sun. My business is me. Like, I am my business. When you work in content creation and you work in art practices of like the esoteric arts, who you are is a huge facet of what you do and why people want to work with you. So I had to kind of just sit and acknowledge I'm only honoring this one side of my business, or like this one side of my personality through my business, and I'm making it too siloed. So how do I let it live together more is what it's kind of looked like. It's exciting and it's fun, but it's also like, oh gosh, now that I have, one of the answers or one of the thoughts, now it's like, now I got to get everything down. And the Virgo rising in me is like, what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan?
Yeah, let's keep going. And then also having Mars in your first house as well, of the drive of
Oh
that.
yeah.
What's the plan? What's the plan on like times 10?
Yeah. It's like Mars in the first house is like, it needs to happen now. It needs to happen now.
Yeah, of knowing a few people in my life, regardless of what their rising sign is, Mars in that first house is it should have been done 2 weeks ago. How fast it should have been done wherever. Yeah. Hey.
It really is. And it's just like what my dad, he lovingly likes to joke. He's like, you're like me. When you realize you want something, you want it right away. And if it doesn't happen, you're going to get super, super frustrated. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's Mars in the first house and it's in Virgo.
Yeah. I think that is a beautiful reflection on just where maybe also too just like timing of overall life for yourself, of this is what I've built so far, this is the identity that I know that some people know that I have, that also is a piece of my identity that's not even related to astrology, of how just eccentric and fantastic you are with drag, like the facets of how you brought this one piece of yourself to your business thus far. This is also my meticulousness, my other piece of my facets of myself, regardless of even if we're a Gemini, of how many facets a human is. Also, regardless of their energy type, one thing that certain people from a human design perspective out of the 5 types, that manifesting generator is the out of control, I can do everything at once person, but still be
Hmm.
all of these identities all at once. It's okay to be fully in one identity for a period of time. This is definitely something I've gone through. One identity for one period of time, but then still let all of these other pieces of me that I'm cultivating, that I'm working on, that I want people to see eventually, come along the way and meld them all together, because they're still all one identity. They're
Yeah.
still all Fran. For me, that's been a big piece of post Saturn return. I had just the identity of personal trainer, then just the identity of stretch therapist. Then this crazy thing called human design came along, and my spiritual side of just like life took a long time to come forward, even though people saw me as this woo friend out, like I'll do whatever, be with whoever kind of side, that the world saw much more and my innate world saw so much more, but then took forever for me to embody. And I'm kind of like just starting to get there now. I'm like, yeah, this is all.
Yeah. I have a question for you, as, the people who work in one, like the social sort of scope, but also people who have like a full sort of breadth of identities. Have you ever felt ever any moments where it's like there's like a restriction of allowing that identity out because of what people in your industry might think of you being someone who does human design with stretch therapy or with physical training? Is that like an interplay that happens to you? Because that's definitely something that goes on in my mind.
Totally. I feel like this is the way that I'll love to dive into. We're going to do 3 things on Cole's human design. And I have read Cole's human design, but it was over a year and a half ago. So I'm like pumped
Hmm.
to bring these couple things back up. One thing I've been playing with lately, with reminding myself about this particular aspect of my design. And so that people know in this moment, Cole and I are both generators. So when we are excited, we're talking about the thing that we do, whatever it is, or we're just excited about what we're going to eat, we are creating good energy in the world. People just want to be around us. But in the opposite, if we're in the worst mood ever, I actually don't even want to be around me. I want to jump out of my insides. I'm like, I don't want to experience this emotion. It's like, it's a lot.
Get
Anyways,
it out of here.
get it out of here. So there's something in our human design chart that we can read that is called life theme. And it is essentially, in air quotes, purpose. Usually
Mm.
a few sentences or a description that says, when you bring this energy, when you do training in this way, when you walk down the street in this way, your body is going to feel awesome and you're going to bring more goodness to you. You're going to bring what your body and soul wants to experience, or your destiny, to use other words. So what my life theme is actually very basic, and almost was like, I was like, this is too simple. What how do I do this? And for the energy that's going into my chart, it says just talk about what you're excited about today.
Mm.
That's it.
Love.
Yeah.
That's
And
all it
that's
takes.
all it takes.
Period.
My energy. So if I'm like, I've just had a podcast episode recording, I should bring it up to my client, or just like what's coming out energetically in the moment. To describe an exact scenario, how something literally I manifested. I am not a fan of the word manifestation. That's a whole other topic. I needed a new phone. This was a couple of years ago. And I cracked this one. I still had an iPhone 8 Plus with the freaking home button. This was even a couple of years ago for me. I was like, I'm holding on to the home button. I know.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Hold on to the home button. Miss it. Miss it every day.
Day too. It was so weird to get rid of it. Anyways, so I was talking with my client while I'm training this client of mine, and I said to her, I showed her my phone because it's cracked a little bit, and I'm like, we got to figure this out because I have a phone plan, but I have bought out this old phone because I was like, screw phone companies. Shit, I need a new phone. Do I need to now re-sign up with a provider that, I got a 2-year plan again? And my client goes, oh, this week I was going to take in my phone because I'm going to upgrade. I can sell you this old one that's only 2 years old.
That's great.
Literally, only because I brought it up in a session of a random thing that was happening that day for me. That's a very
Yeah.
small example of like my life moving forward, something coming to me because I spoke up.
I
And
love that.
as that in my design, which is like insane. So to bring this back to your point of your question to me, I have when I think of what little Frances was, let's say she's 12 years old. She's goody two shoes, the energy, goody two shoes, always does well in school, very much molded and conformed by my family, old only child, like always tried hard. If it didn't like work, yeah, just probably a very Virgo rising first house vibe is
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
childhood. And also say with Virgo as my third house, to me, third house is yes, communication, but also like young life. Uh,
Yes. Oh, 100%.
yeah. And so that experience, not speaking up, I disliked confrontation. So to paint that picture, I am the exact opposite to that now as what I would say we're not mid 30s, but we feel a sense of identity. I'm excited about different things and I'll show you, like, I'll whip my hair about it. Like,
Love.
energy. So very different, and definitely even in the past couple of years of exploring my sexuality in different ways, like really just tapping into other facets of me. I truly feel like I'm starting to embody what it means to just speak on the day of this is the thing, but it took me time to feel comfortable.
Mm.
This is the way that even if I'm over somebody on a stretch table using the Theragun, that I'm going to bring up astrology because that's a random thing to bring up while you're stretching,
Yeah.
or that I need a new phone, or that I just went to this new restaurant. Yesterday, I was talking to a newer client of mine of whatever ads I've seen online. I'm like, hey, have you been to Budweiser stage yet? Which in Toronto, this is a big outdoor amphitheater. And I'm talking to him. He's from a different country. And then he gets all excited. He's like, oh, I should take my wife. I know I need to go. It's the very small intricacies of how I show up that it even says my energy should apply this to how I show up in a personal training setting. And I don't have to be this prim and proper, just counting reps. No, I'm allowed to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful.
That's
Love. Love.
my experience with that. Now I'm excited in this moment to then bring up yours to remind you what Cole's life theme is. And with just the energy that's in your human design chart. And we're getting close to Gemini season. I know we just entered Taurus and we're not going to bypass, but like we're chugging along.
We're getting there.
Getting there. So Cole's life theme is very simple: to awaken and connect people to the things that they are passionate about.
I love that. That's like what my life has always been. It's just I've always been the type of person where it's like I get really passionate about what like my people love, and then I want to learn more about it, but then also share that as well. I think as you say that, one of my biggest shutdown points is when I like am talking about something that like I really love and people are like you're rambling. I'm like, okay. Got it. It's interesting to even see like the negative aside of that to be like weird. That's the first thing that came into my mind. I'll talk to my therapist about it later. I just love gabbing. I always say whenever I'm out at the bars or whenever I'm just like talking to someone, I'm like, do not let me get on a tangent because I will consume too much of the time. Like when I'm giving readings to clients, I'm like, I can make this 1 hour reading go for 3 hours and I will not charge you an extra penny for it because I can talk about this for hours and hours. So it really is just chatting about what I love, huh?
Literally. As for me, it's the energy of the day. For you, it's what you love, whether it's this and you no longer love it. So your energy is drained. You're like, okay, I don't need to talk about that anymore. Or it's something brand new that just came into your sphere. Or it's a new line of makeup that you're like, so it's whatever you're most loving is then also going to connect somebody to what they love most as well. You loving astrology so
Mm.
much helps then someone else connect into the things that they love. You being so into whatever moment that night is that you're dressed up for drag, somebody else is going to be like, oh my God, the way they did their hair, the way they did this. Like it could, there's so many facets that it could actually happen that it's not even as dogmatic to the sentence of what it says life theme is for each of us in our design. There are so many ways it could play out to actually be the exact thing that you were meant to experience on that day for yourself and a client, like, or your partner, whatever.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense because like the days even where I'm like I just spent all day like ooh moaning and groaning and then I'm like, oh, now I have to go do a show and like all this jazz. I like and maybe it's like I know you hate the word manifestation, a reverse manifestation. I manifested something not great. I'm like, I just don't have the energy to like do it today. Those are usually the days where no one shows up to the club and then it's like empty. And I'm like, okay, this is was like I'm disappointed no one's here, but also I was just not I didn't have the energy to bring it. But then the days where I'm like, oh, tonight's gonna be amazing. And people are like, what do you mean? I was like, I just know it's gonna be amazing. Even if there's only two people in the bar, it's gonna be amazing. Those are the nights like the it is packed. It is like huge. The days where I make a video where I'm like, I'm just going to make this astrology video because this random ass idea came into my mind and I need to talk about it are the days where I also get like 2, 3 bookings on my calendar, which is like within like moments of posting the video. I'm like, okay, I gotta do those silly, goofy videos every once in a while, huh? It is interesting to, because I think that's also ties back into the narrative that I've always felt about being too much or my interest always being like too like weird. I want to do an entire series where I go through every single Pokemon and being like, now what part of the chart would this Pokemon be, right? You know, it's like okay, looking at like Bulbasaur and Venusaur and Ivysaur, right? There's like they might all be Virgos, but maybe one's a Virgo moon, maybe one's a Virgo rising, maybe one's I don't actually think they would be Tauruses, but you know, Virgo was the first sign that came to mind. And so it's interesting to even think about that and how I even talk about my business being like, don't be so hung up on having a reference that is so colloquial that everyone gets it. You can just invest yourself into something that is just a singular passion that maybe only you like.
100%. I'm going to note on that. And then I feel like it'll go directly into a couple other things that relate to Cole giving yourself the most self love right now with looking at your human design chart. For me, one of my biggest things, at least content creation, how I am continuing to still embody this thing that I know. I am the only trainer in Toronto, Canada that is also obsessed with human design. I know this still because
Mm.
I'm the one out in left field that's doing my thing, being like, fuck y'all. I got to just, because there's something in human design and my love of astrology and all things that are pseudoscience is, I just can't put it down. And I know that this is where health and fitness is going. But how many times in the past, we're going into, I guess, 3 years, still 2.5 years of me knowing human design, becoming obsessed, adding it into my business, that I don't know what facet of human design I should show to the world or my personal training clients in order for it to take off because or feel like it takes off and whatever that's meant to be for myself with regards to new clients because it's so new, because there's not as actually much backing in science of just looking at our digestion and where our bodies want to be from a human design graph to give us a healthy body that we feel good in. All of these other ways as to which science and medicine has helped us understand that very simply, if we put less in the tank and expend more energy, we will lose weight. Yes, that is an actual equation that technically works. However,
Right.
what if we're a generator and our body has, in this case for Cole, indirect digestion, which means that you actually like to eat later in the day or when it is darker outside, which I
I'm a,
know
I'm a night owl down.
that you are, and how much you work at night as well, say to perform, that's also a piece of it. And potentially maybe when you do your most writing, do you do a lot of writing?
Oh, the number of times I'm like lying in bed and I'm like, okay, time for bed. And I'm like, all of the ideas just came to me. I need to write them down.
That's 100% you. That is the way that Cole has your healthiest body and operating system and could, if you wanted to lose weight, eat only in a certain part of the day and intermittent fast as an example that this is correct for your body. There's not enough science backing on this yet. There's not enough just statistics to say that this is the way that Cole is the healthiest for you, except for
Mm-hmm.
Cole doing it by yourself and being like, fuck to the rest of the health and fitness and wellness world that says this is the way that you should be fit for you, whatever that means. I have been trying to wrap my head around how do I say this without sounding crazy? But
Yeah. I
it,
always say like trust your circadian rhythm is like the way that I like typically do it, where I'm like, if you are someone who functions well and has the opportunity to go to bed at 3 a.m. and wake up at 11 a.m., you're still getting 8 hours of sleep. You're still getting your 8 hours of sleep. And then if that's the case and you have your dinner at 9 p.m., listen, you still have enough time to like, digest it and do what you got to do. I'm like a big advocate of like tr tr trust your rhythm, trust your body. I don't get hungry until, and again, it's because my routine is very much like I go to bed late, I wake up like, wake up late. I don't get hungry until like 2, 3, p.m. And like that's, and I don't really have breakfast either. I usually eat between like the hours of 2 and like 8, 9-ish. So that 7-ish hour window. Yeah, no, I like, but I agree with you. There are certain moments where I'm like, do I sound too woo woo? Do I sound too like witchy, kind of like crazy? But I think it would be interesting, and I think we'll probably see it as just an anecdote to explore, like, scientific research that is also like looping in with these more esoteric like experiences. Like, I think it would be fascinating to read a research paper on someone who took people's human design charts and then had people who were just, what is it called, control group, and made like specific plans for the human design charts and what they should eat, when they should eat. And then the control group just like do what you do, follow this like normal thing, then just kind of track how their like fitness and their health grows and changes. I think it would be so fascinating. That's the kind of shit that I'm like, we need more studies on it, we need more research on this.
that's probably I'm going to be the either the person that's in charge of it or tandem into in the next 10 years of health and wellness research. I knew that already from thinking about our previous conversations about your design and thinking about your digestion that you were already well on the indirect light moment and never gonna stray from that. It's very interesting when this one in specific because my digestion can kind of scope into the way health and fitness looks as a whole. Indirect is super specific and more of what we'd call a newer style of digestion when we look at human design. Mine has an older human type of digestion, say closer to earlier primitive settling life type of digestion, because my system likes regulatory food, but very particular to me. It's called closed taste, and it happens on my own rhythm because, again, there's another thing with regards to our digestion. There are arrows that are surrounding the top of someone's
Mm.
graph if you're looking at a graph. And that first arrow on the left, if it's pointed to the right, that means that our body will be hungry at a certain point. It's passive. It doesn't really, our body is telling us when we're hungry, but it's not on a regiment. Our body isn't like feed us, feed us, feed us, which is a left arrow. It's super consistent. It likes routine. Cole also happens to have all four arrows pointed to the right. So things are coming in different directions when you go to sleep, when you're here in the world, how your motivation goes up and down of just what you see in a day, which is very where we're headed in as a collective as a whole. It's called a quad right. You're ahead of the game on that. I'm like almost quad right. I've got 3 arrows of my top 4 pointed to the right, and I've got 1 pointed to the left. So I like some structure with just like where my body is in a given day. One other thing to say about your just like health with regards to human design and your actual graph, I've been talking about just like place. And I was really interested to bring this one up for you. There are environments that our body tells us are, this is the environment I need to be in today without realizing it. We just want to sit by the window on a plane. We don't really know why. If we look at our human design, it'll probably tell us why. Mine does. For Cole, yours is called mountains, but your arrow,
Ooh.
yeah. And I'll tell you what that means. Your arrow, though, is pointed to the right. It's a passive arrow. And I'll also explain what that means. But do you like mountains as a whole? If you think of a mountainscape, you're like, yeah, I want to go to the mountains as just like a first question.
I always like I've had two ideologies in my life that if I were ever to like run away from society, I would either go be like a swamp witch or I would go live in a cabin by myself on a mountain, just like in the forest, completely separated from like the rest of the world. But I also find it to be a little bit ironic because I'm terrified of heights. I hate heights. So like whenever I go hiking, I'm like I love being at the top of the mountain. I think it's great, beautiful view, but I'm like as far away from the edge as you could possibly be. I'm like, that's too much. But sitting here just looking at everything, this is great. This is beautiful. I love this.
This is pretty. I think you're very much maybe going to resonate also with relating this back to just being in your true self love era with all of your identities and being like, this is okay to come along for the ride, to add funny into the very in depth meticulousness of my life. I'm going to read it off of one of just the places that I have access to my own personal information about what passive mountains means. So, being left to your own devices actually helps you become available to the insights and ideas that life is already sending your way. Consider this your permission to completely dismantle any conditioning you've picked up about depending on people as a source for your momentum in life. As when we stand on a mountain, if we're in an environment in which we are somewhat removed from others, because a mountaintop is usually, it's pointy, there's only room for one person at the top to just say a very what that could mean. This description means that it's okay to be removed in an environment so that you can have perspective over everyone else.
Hmm. Interesting.
That's ultimately what is happening on a mountaintop. You have perspective over everyone else. When you're on stage, you can see everyone. A stage is also a mountain. This is how like in depth our design can articulate to our life. So, completely dismantle any conditioning you've picked up about depending on people as a source for your momentum. When you need to cultivate your gifts or activate synchronicity to move your life forward, Go find your mountaintop. The world needs you to go up and then come back and share what you have found on the mountain.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm. So, like maybe going, or do you find, say, when you're doing any of your writing, any of your momentary of, if you're prepping for a reading or prepping for your show, do you find that you're alone and having your time of, you don't want to be in a busy cafe because that would distract you moment? You want to feel,
Yeah, fully. I like when I'm like when I need to work, I'm like I need like to be separated from everything. Like I need to have like my music playing. I need to be in the room by myself, especially when I'm like getting when I'm writing. I'm like I'm in the office by myself, doors closed, listening to lo-fi beats, just like letting. And just like chilling out, vibing. When I'm getting ready for drag, I'm like listening to the songs and like the numbers I'm going to be performing over and over and over again, but just in my room, painting like by myself. So it's very much like I have to get into a certain sort of headspace, but like the solitude does help with that 100%.
also to just note one other random thing about your design, solitude is such a big piece of it, is sometimes when we look at our profile, which is kind of how our personality feels internally, but as well as just interpreted for how we move about day to day. Your profile is a 6-2. And whenever there's
Mm,
two, there's a hermit energy. They are very much don't want to be disturbed when they're in their own, like, yo, this is my moment. And if you come into this moment, I'm going to get mad at you just because
right.
it's going to feel
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm very good at establishing like my boundaries and being like, hey, listen, like I'm it like and I feel bad because my boyfriend, he'll like, sing around like I'll be like working in like one room and he'll be like dancing and singing around and I'll be like, I'll just like grab my stuff and I'll move. He's like, am I annoying you? I'm like, no, you're not annoying me. I just like I need to be able to focus and like this doesn't contribute to the focus. Like, it's not that what you're doing is inherently an annoying act. It's that I'm in a headspace where I'm like, I'm working, I'm trying to sit down and get it done. And the only way I'm going to be able to accomplish that is in my tunnel vision.
Yep. Very two and very passive mountains. It's okay if everyone else is around me, but I need my moment of here I am.
Yeah, like I can sit and I can work around other people if I like have my headphones in and like the everything's drowned out.
The one piece I'll bring up will vibe. And then we've done the thing, Cole. We made a podcast together about
I love
where you're at in life, vibing on the things that we know together, and to just bring human design back into your world. One of which do with reminding you that you're a generator. And I'm going to get into authority and making decisions in a second because it's actually one of the most important pieces. We can say digestion and environment, but actually, at the end of the day, how our body is deciding to just do life is what's most important. Do you find that people are talking because you're an astrologer and speak, you're in an esoteric world for a part of your day? Do people talk about human design in your world right now, another year and a bit post you starting to know a bit more about it?
Yeah, I would say that I see it more and more frequently now. Not in my immediate, like, I don't have clients who come to me and they're like, oh, could you also like look at this? But I think when I look at the scope of the people who I follow, peers in the industry, people are definitely talking about human design more. It's not something, it's again, it's not something that I'm applying every day. Because, like I said earlier in the show, like I'm barely looking at my astrology because then I'm just going to be poking and prodding for the specific answer that I'm hoping to justify the fact that I don't want to do shit later. But I definitely am seeing it become more prolific and much more of a conversation point in the industry as opposed to a year and a half ago when we like chatted when I was like, I mean, I've heard this once or twice, but I really don't know what's going on here. It definitely is something that I'm seeing having a lot more conversation around.
I love to hear that from someone who I truly dabble in both worlds. I guess
Mm-hmm.
it was on the weekend of the partial solar eclipse in Aries. So
Mm-hmm.
it was April 12th, 13th. That weekend, I happened to speak and just I gave an intro human design talk. It was a bread and butter type of talk for me of going in depth with
Yeah.
tips and why I love it so much, all the cool things. I gave it to specifically an astrology community that's here in Toronto. They're just called Astrology Toronto. I booked it a whole year in advance, and all of these people knew what it was. There was one gentleman who was an astrologer who'd been using it with his practice for 10 years, but that was one guy out of the entire room, let alone Zoom people that were following.
Right.
To see what people think about it from the astrological side, and then what people, if they're just down the human design side, like who's talking about it and its prevalence in their life, to bring back the self love moment of it's okay, specifically for Cole and Cole's design, that if you take longer to make decisions because your authority is an emotional authority, the majority of the world has an emotional authority of just humans walking around. About 70% actually is the rough estimation,
Mm.
human design wise. Yeah. Even though, and I think this is cool, we both have an Aries moon, and Aries moon has a little bit of this moment. We could be the most impulsive moon sign out there. I actually don't think we are. I'm going to put a like an asterisk on. We
I
are,
think
but I don't know if we're
yeah,
impulsive in my personal opinion.
I think it's Sagittarius personally.
I would say yes to that for knowing a few Sagittarius moons myself and watching them just do life. But emotional authority is allowed to say, let me get back to you on that. For literally, if you get asked literally
Mm,
any question, even what do you want for dinner, honey? You could be like, I'm going to get back to you in a little bit. I don't know.
right.
Do you feel that?
I need to do that more.
Yeah, play with it. Our human design is meant to be played with. It's not
Yeah, definitely.
astrology. It's not meant to be like, I have to say no to every single question that gets asked. Mine is actually more of the in the moment decision of I don't have to wait. If I do, if it's a very distinctive question, do I want tacos or a burger? I'm probably going to figure it out. Right now, my brain's going off and being like red meat burger. But if I
Mm,
get asked a very,
love.
yeah, if I get asked a very open ended question to just reframe, what do I want for dinner? My body has no idea what to decide with being a generator. It's very like I black and white need to see the thing, be asked very auditory,
Yeah.
do you want this or that? Does that resonate for you?
For sure. I can usually tell like maybe like earlier in the day. Like I'm already thinking, okay, you said tacos. So I was like, that pretty much lines up what I was gonna get a burrito later. I was just like, yeah, so thank you for affirming that that is what I wanted. I can kind of tell like the day of that I'm like, ooh, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm craving. Maybe I'll make some pasta. Who knows? I love pasta. And it's easy. Just throw everything in a pot, call it a day. I would resonate with that. That like, I think a lot of the times I feel a pressure like or an urgency to answer right away because I like hate leaving people in like a limbo zone. I do love being like, let me get back to you on that. But I'm also like when I know like the just yesterday, like so my parents were visiting this weekend. So it was just like hosting and having my parents here. It's just like an emotionally draining time. And my boyfriend and our friends were going out for like drinks because one of them's in town. And I was like, I'm gonna be honest, I can't make it. I was like, there's not a they're like he's like, what about like should we feel it out later? I'm like, nope, I can already tell you now. I'm not gonna change my mind. I'm like set in stone. I'm very fervent in it. So I think like I kind of like, really depends on if like it's been a day where I'm like I know I'd be taken like I woke up, I sussed the energy. I said I'm prepared to just like be at home all day. I can make that decision. But like on days where I'm like a lot's happening, I'm like, give me a minute, give me a minute. I like need to finish this and then I can come back to that.
Yeah. That is, it's again, it's your body, you listening to your circadian rhythm and the, this word I will never not love, the intuition of what your authority is telling you. Essentially, our authority is our,
Mm,
it's that little spidey sense that's like, or yeah, or it's a, we can't,
hmm
we can't ever over explain our intuition. And so any decision I
I
have,
love that.
yeah, if I am feeling that I have tried to over explain why I said no to this or yes to this, then I probably haven't let my body make the decision. I've let my mind or my conditioning, my shoulding, my whatever try to decide for me as opposed to my authority and intuition.
I love that.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna sit with that for a bit.
Sit with that little nugget. I feel like people listening might sit with that nugget too.
Yeah, you definitely should. It's a good one to reflect on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huh.
Is there anything else that's coming to you that you want to wrap up with today, Cole?
Hmm. No, I don't think so. I think we definitely even covered more than I thought we were going to based on the email you sent me. So I'm like, wow, we really got into it. We got into it today.
Yeah, we did. I appreciate you speaking about yourself, your life, what you do, vibing on bringing this human design knowledge back into your world. If your followers happen to be like, hey, now I also should know things about human design. And I always finish off with one thing that I know that for yourself will resonate for today and whatever else you get up to in your day. But I always remind my audience that they are fearless the way that they were born. So I guess that's
Mm,
the last thing that I'm going to say for today. So thank you, Cole, for being here.
thank you for having me, Francis. I appreciate it.